So it's super simple what's in the box. You get the grill, you get some instructions, and you get a camera bracket. Not all of them have the camera, so you may not need it, but that's essentially what's in the box. So super simple. So let's just get started on putting it together. All right, well, let's get started on install this thing. So one of the first things you're gonna need to do is pull off the hood latch. So it's a T15 Torx. And we're just gonna set it off to the side. Next, we're gonna need our flathead screwdriver, and we're gonna start pulling up the little tabs. So these are super simple little tabs. I'll show you one as soon as I get it out. So they're two-part tabs. So you have the little button that sits down in the other one, just like that, and then when it's pushed in, it expands it out to hold it in place. Now, be careful not to break these because you will need to reuse them. However, if you do break them, I have seen most hardware stores have something at least similar to it. But we're gonna pull off, there's 10 of these. We're gonna pull them all off. Short guy.
I'll help you out here. Yeah, I just got my belly wet. I mean, but at least I could see them.
All right, then we're gonna slide that little cover off right there and just sit to the side. All right, next we have these 4 bolts right here. Ooh, and it did bug. These 4 bolts right here that we're gonna use a 10mm for. All right, so the next thing we got to do is come to the side, and we're gonna have to pull out, there's 2 Torx screws, one here and one here. And what this is gonna do is it's gonna help to release the fender flare. Once the fender flare is loose, we're gonna pull the fender flare off. So let me get this off real quick. All right, so now this is gonna be loose. So there's metal clips that hold the fender flare in. Just a little bit of light pressure, well, maybe a little more than light pressure, and they pop right off. All right, once we get up here, there's some of the pen style, and you can reach in there. There we go. Pop that one off. So they're the little clamp style. So if you push on either side of this, it'll help it to pop out. But the other thing is they also will just slide off the fender. And that's what we did for these second ones, is just slide it off. So we'll set that one there. Then you'll need a 7mm. And a 7mm is going to remove this bolt that's holding on this lower air dam. So we got lucky when pulling off this fender flare. It actually took all the way up here. Sometimes you may only get like the first 2, and either you got to keep pulling, or you can get a wrench and get to this because it can fit into a smaller space. All right, so there's also 2 screws. They're kind of hard to see and get to and all the other things, but on the back side, so where this crease is at right here, or this body line is at, on that area on the inside, there are 2 bolts that you have to get out. They're both 7mm, and they're kind of hard to get to, but I'm gonna get these 2 off real quick, And then we're gonna basically repeat everything on the other side, and then we'll start taking this bumper, I guess it's the bumper upper part of it, apart. But I'll be right back. I'm gonna get these two off. All right, at this point, once you get those two screws off that are right here, what you can do is you're gonna push down a little bit and pull out at the same time. And what that's gonna do is release these pins that are in here as well as the ones that are along here. And this, yes, this little bracket right here is gonna fall. It's the one, it sits right along this way, and this is one of the screws that holds on the bumper piece and the other piece that holds on to this. So it just needs to stay right there, and we'll get it put back in here in a minute. So this right here is a bracket that will need to go with this bumper piece because it's got the fog light assembly on it. So you'll pull this, and there's the two clips right here. All right, so make sure you take off the fog light plug too and get that harness undone. All right, here's the part that makes this one difficult. So they've got the little catch clips here, and then these kind of catch clips here. And what you'll have to do is you have to press down on this just enough to release it from the little hook right here. Now these go all the way down and around, so you just kind of have to work it out. So we're gonna work on that and get this front clip off. Woo! Okay. And just like that, it pops off. So once I got that last clip popped off, the whole thing just popped off. But since this is a diesel, it's actually got the heater plug on it. Honestly, we're trying to figure out how to get it off, but it's okay if it's just you set it to the side, because the bolts we got to get to are these right here. It's just this one and this one, and then the grill should come off. So there's a big clip about the middle that's a little bit harder to get off.
There it is.
There it was. Yeah, that was a real booger to get off. There's a bolt there. Screen's black, I don't know if that matters.
No, it doesn't.
So here's what you're working with, and this is why it looked like it was so difficult. There's 3 large clips. There's one here, and one on that side. And then these little hooks right here, they get caught right on the top, right next to where the bolt screws in at. You have to make sure you have to lift these up because it sits very, very snug. And these clips are super tight and super hard to get out. So it will take some force, but just make sure that you have all 3 of the bolts across the bottom of it pulled out first. This one already comes with all your clips already ready. It already comes with the wiring harness for the lights on it, so you just have to route it and you'll place your clips back in there. All right, so what we've done is we've ran it through just behind the fins, up underneath the core support, and then there's a little flange right here that we've run it through right beside the radiator. And you're just gonna line your clips up. There's one. There's 2. Oh, I actually think the 3rd one clipped in on its own. There. So you got the three clips that'll hold it in, and then now we can put in our bolts. All right. We got those ones back in. Now we can start putting in the other part of the air dam. All right, so at this point, we've got it at least set up against it. We're gonna hook up the fog light back in, and its little clips back where they go.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky. All of these little tabs will actually just fall right into place, click right in, and then this one's where it gets a little bit trickier. So these will also click in, but once you get those clicked in, there's two round ones that have to go in the holes right here, so you kind of have to angle it just a little bit to get it in there, all at the same time of getting the other ones in there. Easy, right? There we go. There we go. Yeah. Get the fender flare out here. So here's that little white piece that we talked about. It actually holds the screws, but the clips sit right between where those go. So you can either get it lined up before you put it on, or there's one, there's two. All right. So once you get all this snapped back in and you tighten these screws that are back up here, the ones that were a pain in the butt to get out in the first place, you'll get them tightened back up. I did find a little trick though. If you will start the screws with this bumper cover off, put that bracket up there and start the screws and leave you a little bit of gap, it'll all snap back together a whole lot easier, and then all you got to do is tighten down the screws. But once you get those screws in, you have your screw that goes up here, and then you'll snap all your fender grommets back in, making sure that they capture in the little slots. There you go. And then the little metal ones at the end. There's that.
You're good.
And then you've got the two Torx screws that will hold the fender flare bracket back in. All right, here's where you're gonna put, that's not right there. Here's where you're gonna put the 4 screws back in the top, 4 bolts. Everything's lined up, you just gotta put them in. So I had a bit of a camera issue. There are a bunch of little Christmas tree clips on the old grill with this weather stripping. We got the weather stripping pulled off. Now you're probably gonna wanna use a trim tool, and what you'll do is you'll just slide that trim tool just underneath here and pop each one of them off. Now there was at least 20 that I remember there being, but there may be closer to like 25 or 26. But once you get them all off, you're just gonna come back over here and put it in the exact same place on here. The holes are already pre-drilled. You just push it on there and push it down all the way across, and that covers your weather stripping. Your fun little cover piece, make sure it goes the right way. Just sits right back down on it. And then all those clips that you saved, you just push back in there. They just pop in and push down. And those are back together. All right, then the last part with the actual part of the grill is putting your hood release handle back on. It just slides right there, and you put your 2 screws in. Careful not to drop your screws because they will be gone forever. All right, there it is. Now, let's wire up the lights. All right, as for the electrical, the wiring, we got it all pulled over here, so now we're gonna get it connected to the fuse box and the battery. So what's not included, but what I have found the easiest thing to do, is get one of the fuse taps. Now make sure you get the right one for the fuse that you have, because different vehicles have different fuses. So for this particular truck, I've got my wire cut and I've got it run. We're gonna run it into the fuse box. I've got my fuse tap, and we're gonna go to fuse number 8. Fuse number 8 is the fog lights. So the only time that the lights are gonna come on is when the fog lights come on. So I've got it all run around. I'm gonna press that in and then follow this around and then just make it look nice. And then we can put our cover back on it, and it's just gonna hang out the edge of the cover. There it is. And then I've got the ground wire run. I've already got it zip stripped along here and then attached to the battery. And that's all there is. It's just a positive and a negative. All right, and there it is. There's the install for the Armor Grill from American Modified. So, we've seen this. Let's check these lights out real quick. And there they are. They're actually really relatively bright for just being some LEDs on the grill. Otherwise, we appreciate your purchase and hope that you found this useful for installing your grill on your 19 to 21 GMC Sierra 1500.